This is Tuesdays with Ted. That's me. And I'm sharing with you everything that I know in hopes that you can elevate your life. Good morning. Is that live? We're live, officially live. How's it going, friends? It's Ted. And it's 3 p.m. on Tuesday, which means it's Tuesdays with Ted. It's a little show that I developed, and it's basically me sharing with you everything that I know, that I'm finding out, that I'm figuring out to live a great life, or at least what I think so far is a great life. And in hopes that I share that stuff with you, and then you too can live a great life, and we can all live great lives together. So today I am talking about spending time in nature and how spending time in nature can help us reduce stress. So it's a big deal, actually. Many of you know that I'm kind of working, these things are sort of kind of like, you know, vlog posts, I guess, if you will, all about what to do and how to do it. So I kind of came up with like 10 categories. There's actually a bonus one that I'll tell you at the end, but each category has a specific, right? Exercise, nutrition, all this sort of stuff. So one of the things that I thought about was spending time in nature. Greetings from Venezuela. How you doing, Ricardo? Namaste, my friend. So one of the items I think is imperative, and I'm actually learning more about this, is Lou, Big Lou is here too, I like it, is spending time in nature is really something that is imperative to our well-being. And I kind of felt that, I've always felt that. And by the way, just for you guys just joining us here now, this is a discussion. Like I kind of pick the topic, or someone tells me a topic, and then it's really all about us kind of helping each other. So feel free always to throw out any questions you have related to the topic or not, and I'll definitely get to it if I can. But anyway, regarding time in nature, so just a short little history lesson. I grew up, about me, I grew up on Long Island, and I grew up in a little cul-de-sac. We used to call it a dead end. We didn't know what cul-de-sac was for a different community of people. We had dead ends. We didn't have cul-de-sacs. Hey, Kevin, what's going on, buddy? Anyway, Ricardo, started doing yoga 4 years ago with Tony Horton. Thanks very much for changing my life. Ricardo, thanks for saying it, my friend. Keep on doing some yoga. Anyway, so growing up back on Long Island, I grew up in a block that had 4 houses. And next to that was 270 acres of woods, Ricardo, in Venezuela. They call them hectares. Hectares, I think, are a little bit smaller than an acre. I don't know the measurements in land. But Michael grew up on a dead end, too. Yeah, Michael, thankfully, we got out of the dead end. And we're not living in a dead end anymore. But anyway, so 270 acres of woods, which is now actually a golf course, believe it or not. And I'm not so sure, nothing against golfers, but I would prefer just the natural land out there. Anyway, so for me growing up, I would always spend time in there, you know, just hiking around through, climbing trees, doing all kinds of stuff, and it just felt natural as a kid. If you grew up in a place where you could access some nature, that's what you did, right? You climbed trees and you did. I'm just shaking my little drink. I just have a little drink here. It's my little afternoon Shakeology, friends. But so I always did that. It was like part of who I was to spend time in nature, climbing trees, doing stuff, building forts. And I'm not so sure if I should say this publicly, but I was a little pyromaniac back in the day. I would basically go out into the, I don't know if this is like officially now I'm admitting to a crime. I would go into the woods with a bucket of sand, and I would, hey Alec, I would go into the woods with a bucket of sand, a rake, and matches, and basically light a fire to see how big it could get until I put it out. And then there was like 1 or 2 times that I couldn't put it out, and I started to run back home, call the fire department, and say, I'm smelling smoke. I don't know. I was definitely a delinquent kid. Thankfully, I know, Michael, it's really bad, right? So thankfully, I don't do those kinds of things anymore. But now, Now, what I do is I spend time in nature. And the reason I tell you about growing up and spending time in nature in that way as a little kid is because I feel like it was kind of part of a fiber of my being to be in the woods. And now I live in Malibu, and right across the street, those of you that follow me on social media, you'll see all the pictures I'm posting. The Santa Monica mountain range right across the street. It's gorgeous, and I go to spend time in there on my mountain bike or hiking with the family or trail running, and it feeds my soul in such a way that I knew it had to be one of the main chapters of the book, so to speak, of this plan of conscious endurance, the plan of living a healthy, energetic, happy, kind of redefining how we all plan to live for the rest of our lives, right? Like, to me, you have to spend time in nature in some way. So, of course, I did a little research for us, and I bought the book, Your Brain on Nature by Eva Solhub, and I can post these links to these books after I'm finished here. But Eva Solhub and Alan Logan, I think she's an MD and he's a naturopathic doctor, but they wrote this book, Your Brain on Nature. And one interesting thing, there's a ton of information in the book, but one interesting thing that I love that I found out is when you exercise outdoors, yes, you're going to burn calories. You're going to burn just as, if you go for a run, for instance, you're going to burn just as many calories on a treadmill as you will on a trail. But what happens is your stress levels decrease, and the effect of that exercise lasts a little longer. That's what they're learning in some of these studies about exercising in nature. Now, it doesn't mean if you're going to exercise and you can only do it indoors, then you exercise versus not exercising. But if you can mix in some outdoor exercise, definitely do it. I highly recommend it. So that's one thing. There's a ton more. I've also found another person, this guy Richard, I don't even know how to say his name, Love or Louv, it's L-O-U-V. And he wrote a book, two great books actually. Someone recommended this book a while ago. It's called The Last Child in the Woods. And then he wrote another book called The Nature Principle. And essentially, with the Nature Principle, the thesis is that we all are dependent. There's a term called biophilia, and some of you, if you're a design person, you might have heard of biophiliac design or biophilia design. So basically, cities now and communities, they're designing with biophilia design. And what that means essentially is you're having a design, you're designing a community, or you're designing a home, or you're designing a town with nature as part of the actual design. So it's pretty cool because they're showing, these architects and designers are basically showing how being in nature, or at least looking at greenery, is something that's super important for your well-being. So another thing I learned, which was super cool, is there's something called phytoncides, right? I don't know if David Bailey's there. He's my friend who's a PhD sports scientist guy. I don't know, David, if you're out there, you can tell us what phytoncides. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Anyway, it's what green plants, I got some plants here, you can see some plants here, what they give off in order to protect them from insects. And when you breathe that in, I'm going to turn this a little bit. When you breathe that in, it actually helps you relax a little bit more, gives you all the benefits. So you don't even need to go outdoors. You actually can just be inside looking at a green plant. Now, you also get benefits from looking at a green picture or painting of a green tree or whatever, though it's way more beneficial if you are actually with the green plants. And I know I keep pointing both directions, but you can't see them here. On YouTube later you'll be able to see. I'm in between two ferns. Those of you that know, oh, there you go, now you can see that one. So it's important to have to have some greenery around you on a regular basis. And the reason is, again, like I said, this phytoncides that the green plants emit actually help you and help you receive the benefits of being in nature. So what else does it do? What else does it do? So that helps build your immune system. When you're breathing that stuff in, it helps your immune system get a little bit stronger. It lowers your blood pressure. So those of you that are feeling stressed out, and this is part of the reason, I was just thinking about this whole thing, and I thought it's really important, I think, for all of us to understand that a lot of people deal with stress in different ways. And stress because of our jobs or because of our family or because of our relationship or whatever it is. And I'm a person who deals with stress in different ways. I get stressed out once in a while, and what I try to do is keep a balance. So I try to make sure that I am not always connected. Like at home here, we turn off our Wi-Fi at night. We just unplug the Wi-Fi, and maybe that's going a little too far for some of you, but we like to do it because we don't like the Wi-Fi bouncing around our brains all the time. So, but we also go for family hikes. We have family time. We try to get outdoors in nature as often as possible, and we shut down our work, and we're able to kind of stop our mind for specifically. And obviously there's other ways too, right? Exercise, meditation, all these different things to do. Oh, this is funny. Danielle is miserable until she hiked to Runyon Canyon and forgot all my issues. Isn't it amazing? I mean, that's the thing, is like getting out into nature. You drive to a trailhead, you get out of the car, you park your car, and then all of a sudden you take a deep breath and you look up at the green, and or brown if it's here in Southern California. We're starting to get brown again. But it's amazing the benefit of that effect of just being outdoors. I love it. So reduces stress, lowers your blood pressure, improves your mood. So I have been personally dealing with a little bit of an Achilles issue, and it was getting better, and it was getting better, and it was getting better. And then I went for a little workout with our friend doing uphill sprints, and I thought, well, I'll just modify, I'll make it a little bit easier. And I modified a little bit, but I pushed myself a little too much, and now I'm sort of taking a step back. So I'm so bummed about it. But anyway, so I gave it a rest the last few days, and today I went out there again because I thought I just have to get out there and breathe in the air, and it really helped me, actually. Hey, Kevin is from Argentina. Actually, Kevin, I know you're not from Argentina, but you happen to be in Argentina traveling. So thanks for joining, Kevin. Chazzy. Wait, so looking at the color green helps. Sorry, I got distracted a bit. Yes, actually, looking at the color green helps. I don't know if it's the color green or if it's a picture of green plants. So I can try to clarify that. But I was blown away too that you don't even actually need a real plant. You could just look at a picture or a poster of green, and you're gonna get the benefits of the experience. So whether or not it's just green in the color, I'm pretty sure I read a study a while back that talked about just the color green. That's all you have to do is the color green. So here's another interesting thing that I found, and this was part of Richard Love's book, The Last Child in the Woods. So he's kind of, there's a study going on in the UK about the benefits for kids, because nowadays we all know so many children are ADD or ADHD, or they're just stressed out. Now, some of us just think that they're just regular kids and they got a lot of energy and they're bouncing around and they're bouncing off the walls, and that's just how you were as a kid. And my parents, I know they were like, I would get home from school and they'd be like, okay, go outside. And then I'd go play for 3 hours outside, and then I'd come back and I reluctantly would come home to eat dinner, but I would be sweating and I would be dirty, and that was just how it was. But I was getting out some of that kind of ADD stuff all the time. Nowadays, I don't think that happens as much. So I think it's caused, plus all the video games and cell phones and all that sort of stuff, has caused much more of this attention deficit disorder for children. But there's studies about lowering this in children. And this guy, Richard Love, is kind of part of this whole movement called getting kids back to nature, which of course I love. I think it's a great thing. Andrea says she wore herself out as a kid. Yeah, and that's the thing is like, just talking to Liz actually, who's behind that camera over there. She did this event, she and her soon-to-be husband did this event that was called what was it called? Trail to Table? Trail to Table, and it was basically like an adventure race. So those of you that know me well, years ago I used to do adventure racing. Now if you don't know me that well, you know that much about me. And adventure racing basically is a combination of mountain biking, trail running, kayaking, navigation. I was like, when I found this sport, you guys, I was like a little kid in a candy store. It was the greatest, a big kid in the candy store. It was the greatest sport that you possibly could have invented for me. Basically, we would kayak for 15 miles, and then we'd bike for 60 miles, and then we'd run for 18 miles. I mean, it was just, you'd go for 24 hours nonstop. But it was, and you had navigation, had a map and a compass and looking at where we're going, and you were navigating overnight, and just, it was awesome because you spent all that time exercising in nature. What's better than that? Lou says, when I train and work out with my daughter outside, when she practices outside, just inside, she does much better outside. Interesting. So Lou is saying that when he trains or works out with his daughter outside, that she actually performs better when she actually competes inside. So it's interesting because there was a study, and I don't have all the studies here in front of me, I just have a few little notes, but I did read a study that shows that kids perform better after exercise outside. And we as adults, not just kids, but as adults, we focus better after being outside and after spending some time in nature. And I think there's the prefrontal cortex, which is the front side of your brain, is the part that gets distracted. It's the part that has the cortisol levels when they get really high, and you get anxiety and you get stressed out. That's all happens in the prefrontal cortex of your brain, and nature unwinds that. It's like if it were like a balloon that was getting all this pressure, all of a sudden it just being in nature kind of pops the balloon. It's like everything softens a little bit, everything gets a little bit more relaxed, and that's a beautiful thing. So how can we do that? So regardless of whether you're in Venezuela, like our friend Ricardo is, or Argentina, like Kevin is, or Lou, are you in Philadelphia? Where are you, Lou? Or anywhere else in the world, we can find some green somewhere, some way. One really cool article, there's three things. I don't have a pen, but remind me, Liz, to post the National Geographic article too. So I'll give you guys these books, and there's a great National Geographic article as well. Lou is in Philly. So there's a great National Geographic article that was in 2016 called Call to the Wild, and talks about all these benefits, and they mention these authors and all these benefits about spending time in nature. And they got some great photos and some great stories about typical National Geographic, right, with amazing photos, but some great stories about people who have spent extra time in nature for this reason. And actually, is it Captain Fantastic? That's the movie, right, with the family and they're in nature, and it's like a whole different sort of subculture thing. It's a worthwhile movie. I recommend watching it. Anyway, the article of National Geographic is all about spending time in nature, and it's fantastic. What I learned in there is there's this incredible, I think it's South Korea, it might be Seoul. Yeah, Ricardo. It might be Seoul, but it's again back to the biophilia design and designing public areas with greenery in them. The whole city is basically based around public parks. So you kind of let the park be the first thing, and then build around that. So you have to actually, to get from one side to the other side, yeah, sure, you could go around the park, but the idea is to go through the park. right? And it was Olmsted. I forget his first name, but I think his last name is Olsted or Olmsted. Liz, do you know that? Which one? No? He created Central Park, actually. He was buddies with John Muir. So Central Park in New York, back in the day, in the 1830s, this was all, I was an English major at UCLA, and all of the fun literature I read, which I loved actually, was Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau and Margaret Fuller and John Muir and all these guys that were, just like sitting on a brook, looking at the loon, listening to nature and the wind and the breeze and all that sort of stuff. So that's the kind of stuff we want to get back to, right? And I mentioned Olmsted because he came from that time. He created Central Park. And for those of you that live in New York City, it's an amazing experience to just go walk around, be among the trees. It's fantastic. And I know because after living in New York City, so this is for those of you that live in cities and have a harder time finding this medicine, this natural medicine, the medicine that is nature. Find a park, search out a park. I mean, get some indoor plants too, for sure. But go ahead and find a park. So whether you're in New York, you find Central Park, you find Tompkins Square Park on the Lower East Side, Madison Square Park right there. So there's so many, Union Square, there's a million of them in New York City. But, and here, I think it's interesting too, like there's stress everywhere. People are just stressed out. I don't know why this has become more of a thing. I don't know if it's because, people are trying to do too many things at once, but we have to lower our stress. I guarantee you guys, it is the one thing that will help you improve your quality of living is lowering your stress. So these are the tools that we all need to do it. Hey, Christian, hey Teddy, I've become a huge fan of yours. An X3 workout, super impressed by. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Or woman, not sure if it's Christian, guy or girl. Always wondered, do you do yoga to maintain your fitness, or do you supplement? And then it cuts out your question, but I'll answer that, Christian, quickly. As far as I'm concerned, yoga is my medicine as well, so I would consider myself injured right now is what I consider myself. My Achilles is really hurting me. But ultimately what I do throughout the year is I'll find different races. So I'll find like 2014, 2015, I did the Leadville 100-mile mountain bike race. But I usually do a few triathlons throughout the year. I usually do a few trail races throughout the year, from anywhere from a half marathon to ultra marathons. So I'll always find these little races throughout the year that I can kind of build up to, right? Christian, so what my yoga does, and I happened to fall into teaching yoga 20 years ago, and 15 years ago, but practicing 20 years ago, and the yoga itself became necessary for me to do all the other things. So just quickly, and we'll get back to nature, but I felt like I had this competitive side, this adventure racing, competitive marathon running side, and I had this kind of peaceful yoga side to me, and it was a little bit of a bummer because I was like, oh, why couldn't I just have like one full thing that I was doing? But then I realized, wait a second, maybe there's a connection here that I'm just not seeing. And eventually I saw it and realized that you can do whatever you want in the world, and if you bring yoga into the mix, then it's only going to make it better. So whether you're a runner or a cyclist, or you're doing, P90X or Insanity or P90X3, or, any other workout that you want to do, Zumba, I don't care what it is. If you add yoga into the mix a couple times a week, then I guarantee you're going to feel better. So there was a couple questions over here I just wanted to get to. Work in New York City would always feel so much better when I come home to upstate and see the greenery. Ah, yes, absolutely, Michael. I totally agree with you. Andrea says, lives in East Texas, and green is everywhere, but we forget to take it all in. We get too used to it and forget to take it all in. And that's absolutely right, Andrea. And this is really the simple solution, really, that I would say with all of this stuff is when we get into our rhythm and when we get into our daily busyness of life, that what's important is to remember that life is a gift and life is this opportunity, right? We're not just a pillow, and we're not just a fern, or it's actually a palm. I forget what kind of palm this is, but anyway, we're not just a rock on the side of a road, right? We have the ability to live, and we have the ability to breathe, and we have the ability to reason, and we have the ability to feel. The sense of feeling, to me, is one of the most fantastic things ever, right? I mean, it's this incredible gift that we're lucky enough to have, and to me, we forget about that, and that's one of the reasons why I want to sort of do this kind of thing and share what I know. I mean, it's a reminder for me, but hopefully it helps us all, that we say, hey, you know what? Take the time in, here's what I'm going to do. Is this phone connected? Like, is your phone on here? Is it not going to fall off?
It won't fall.
So that's what I look at right upstairs there, like that. It's just so cool to have, right? And then there's my other little green, and here's my other little green there. So wherever I try to be, I try to get some green, and that's without the trails out there. So hold on, Christian, you said something here. Thanks for answering. Yoga went from one of my least favorite workouts to really looking forward to it every time. Good. I'm glad to hear it. So that's about it, you guys. I just wanted to share with you the category of nature and finding nature and going out there. So what can you do? Just to kind of recap a little bit, what you can do is you can exercise outside, right? You can exercise outside. And going back to the explanation of whether, for me, yoga was my main source of exercise, and I would say yoga is my main source of medicine. Exercise, I run, I bike, and swim, though I'm not really swimming that much these days. I do plyometrics, but running and biking is probably the two main sources, and the yoga practice. So, but if you can, find some time to exercise outside. I know we all live in different climates. So far we've had 3 different countries watching here today. So we're all in different climates, but find some time to be outdoors. Find some time to breathe in that fresh air that's outside. That's a huge, huge, huge thing to do. And then make sure, even if you're in the city, or even if you're not in the city, you just don't get a chance to spend time outside, away from telephone wires and poles and all that sort of stuff. If you don't do that, get some indoor plants. Get some plants that are green. They need to be green. And it's just nice. It's nice to have something living around you. And again, the benefits are lowering blood pressure, reducing stress, improving your mood, increasing the ability to focus, which comes about when we're talking about the kids, and how kids with ADD and ADHD actually we're starting to show that they're feeling much better when they spend more time in nature. And here's a cool one we didn't talk about, but it improves your sleep. So if you have sleep issues, if you're not a great sleeper, then I highly recommend you spend a little time in nature before. So that's it for me, you guys, for today. I just wanted to let you know one quick thing before I finally finish. Next week on Tuesday, I am going to be traveling. I'll be in Peru. So if you're following me on Instagram or you're following me on Facebook, I will definitely be posting things. I don't think I'm going to be going live at this time on Tuesday because we're going to be in Machu Picchu. I'm sorry, but I will, as soon as I can figure out where. We have 3 different hotels we're staying in, and so it's a big trip with a lot of organization and stuff. But if I can get a hotel with a cool spot then I'm just going to go live, and maybe I'll give you guys a message to lead into it when I can, or maybe I'll just all of a sudden be live. So keep a lookout for that, and if you haven't already done so and you're interested, make sure you subscribe to my Facebook page or my newsletter, because I started finally writing a little newsletter. So on teddymcdonald.com. And that's it. Final plug is my wife and I are doing a retreat in July. Actually, I'll do 2 final plugs in my last 30 seconds. July 27th to the 30th, Ted and Lauren, my lovely wife, not Liz, who's lovely, but not my wife. She's going to be a wife to somebody else. She is, Lauren and I are doing a yoga, cooking, hiking retreat to Malibu. And then because Skylar joined, I will also plug our retreat that we're doing in November. That's a running and yoga retreat here in Malibu. Running and yoga is going to kind of finish off, or what would it be? It would be the climactic event, would be the Malibu half marathon. So that's it for me, you guys. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Spend time in nature. Bye.